This happened to a cousin of mine. Her name's Lisa, and she was once a happy, chirpy kid, just turning 6. I was 15 at that time, and man, did that change us forever. One day, a neighbor found an antique doll at a yard sale. At her birthday party, she handed it over to Lisa. It was a real throwback, like something from those old English Victorian houses you'd see in movies. Sure, it was a little worn out, but the craftsmanship, top notch. Lisa fell for that doll instantly. She'd carry it around, talking, laughing, even started having these tea parties with it. At first, it was cute, but after a month or so, it got strange. We'd find her in odd places, talking to this doll. Sometimes it'd be in a closet or an empty room, other times inside the basement, sitting alone in complete darkness. We thought kids and their imaginative friends, right? We shrugged it off. A couple of months in, Lisa's behavior began really changing. Even with the family, she exhibited decreased chattiness. Kinda distanced herself from her friends, too. Began focusing a lot more on her doll. We put it down to an awkward phase, figuring it was something she'd grow out of. But boy, were we wrong. The first incident that really startled us was when Lisa's younger brother, Jake, thought it'd be funny to hide her doll. Lisa went downright ballistic. She screamed like a banshee, even scratched Jake, clutching onto her doll once she found it. You'd think we stole her soul or something. That was the point we started getting worried. It only got worse. The doll seemed to appear in the weirdest locations. Once, I found it staring back at me from the toilet tank in the middle of the night. I tell ya, that nearly gave me a heart attack. Lisa claimed that the doll did not like being alone. She said it told her so. Look, I'm not superstitious, but this shook me up. Lisa started getting nightmares after that. She'd wake up screaming about how the doll didn't want her to sleep. She'd talk about a darkness it carried, and how the doll needed her to fight it off. We felt helpless and desperate. Bruises and scratches started showing on Lisa's arms and legs. She said it wasn't her doing. She said it was the doll trying to get inside her. I'd hear her at night, pleading for the doll to leave her alone. Hell, it was terrifying. Her mom and dad didn't know what to do but talk about it to their friends. This one guy, named Todd Matthews, used to be a paranormal investigator or something. Now, we were skeptical, sure, but we were ready to try anything at this point for Lisa's sake. So, we invited Todd. Todd examined the doll and, from the get-go, didn't like the vibe. After spending some time with Lisa and the doll, he said something about a malicious entity. Specifics? Hell, I don't remember. It was a lot of big words and terrifying implications. Essentially, he said that a demonic presence was tied to the doll, and it was after Lisa's soul. I tell ya, I didn't sleep for a week after that talk. He and his team started their work, setting up all this equipment in our house. Holy water, weird symbols, and good lord, so much salt. It was like a movie scene. Scoured the house for days, doing their rituals and so on. In the end, Todd managed to do something to the doll to, in his words, seal the malevolent entity inside. Seems to have worked, because Lisa's much better now. She doesn't scream at night. The doll's stowed away somewhere and caught dust. Lisa's been more like her old self, but she's different, haunted in a way. As for the rest of us, we're just trying to forget that the doll ever existed. It's funny, yeah. Here we've got so much technology science. Still, there are things we don't understand. All this, it was a stark reminder. This story is something I share hesitantly, because most people think we're nuts. But there you have it. It's a grim reality we've had to live with. To this day, I can't bear the sight of dolls. Just sends chills down my spine. But let it be a lesson before you worry about ghosts. Think about the dolls. Hey folks, my name's Alex. I've got a story to tell you that'll send chills down your spine. You won't believe what happened to me and my buddies when we decided to take on one of the most perilous hiking trails in our state park. Now mind you, these trails were infamous for strange and unexplained disappearances. But being young and naive, we thought we could conquer anything. So there we were, me, Joe, Lisa, and Mike, ready to embark on this thrilling adventure. The trailhead was hidden away, only accessible to those who were determined enough to seek it out. The eerie aura surrounding it didn't faze us. If anything, it made the hike more exciting. As we began our trek, the air grew thick with anticipation. The dense foliage entwined above us, creating a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. Adding to the ominous ambience, we passed by trees with twisted branches, their gnarled forms seeming as if they were reaching out to grab us. Hours turned into days as we ventured deeper into the heart of the trail. That's when we started noticing something was off. The landscape seemed to shift. Paths that were once familiar became unfamiliar. The trail markers seemed to be playing tricks on us, leading us astray. It was as if the forest itself wanted us lost. And then came the time anomalies. We'd glance at our watches, and time seemed to stand still. Minutes would stretch into hours, and yet the sun wouldn't move in the sky. Other moments, it would speed up, and it felt like we were in a race against time, but we didn't even know what we were racing against. The tension among us grew with each passing day. We couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched, that unseen eyes were observing our every move. Strange whispers would echo through the depths of the forest, sending shivers down our spines. We pressed on, our fear fueling our determination to uncover the truth of these cursed trails. As we delved deeper, we stumbled upon a hidden glade, bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center, we discovered an ancient dimensional rift, a tear in reality itself. Its energy pulsed with an otherworldly aura, and we knew deep down that this was the source of the disappearances and the strange occurrences that had plagued these trails for so long. Our hearts pounded with trepidation, but we knew we couldn't turn back. We had a mission: to close the dimensional rift and restore safety to the trails. Armed with courage and the camaraderie forged through our shared hardships, we embarked on the last leg of our journey. The rift, however, did not want to be closed. As we drew nearer, the forest fought back. The path became treacherous, with fallen logs and tangled undergrowth blocking our way. We were tested physically and mentally, our bodies weary and our spirits faltering. However, we were determined not to give in. Finally, standing before the rift, we connected with our very being, channeling strength we never knew we had. With every ounce of determination, we performed a ritual entrusted to us by an enigmatic hermit we had encountered earlier on our journey. The energies crackled in the air, as if reality itself was on the brink of collapse. In a climactic moment, the dimensional rift collapsed. The otherworldly entities that had haunted our steps dissipated into nothingness. The forest seemed to let out a sigh of relief, the once threatening atmosphere dissipating like a passing storm. We had triumphed. Exhausted, but victorious, we retrace our steps back through the twisted trails, now more familiar and less foreboding. The sunlight filtered through the canopy above, warming us with its golden rays. The state park had regained its sense of peace, thanks to our resilience. Years have passed since that fateful journey. Whenever I stroll through the state park, my heart swells with pride and gratitude. We had faced unimaginable horrors and emerged stronger. The trails, once perilous and mysterious, now beckoned to hikers, their secrets sealed away forever. So, my friends, be cautious of the paths you tread, for hidden within the beauty of nature can lie unimaginable dangers. But with courage and a steadfast spirit, we can conquer any challenge, even those that exist beyond the realm of our understanding. Hey there, folks. Sammy here. Let me tell you about something that happened to me and my buddies. Something that has stuck with all of us since then. See, we decided to play a game of hide and seek in a creepy old mansion on the outskirts of our town. Sounded like a good idea at the time. Am I right? Well, that night, one of my friends, Joey, went missing, disappeared right into thin air. So, we gathered one weekend, bored out of our minds. That's that unspoken danger with boredom, you know. It leads you out to do stupid things. That's when Joey suggested the mansion. We all knew about it, of course. The place had been empty for years, and folks said it was haunted. We teased him at first, said he was trying to put a fright in us. But Joey swung the car around, and before we knew it, there we was, staring up at that ominous hulk of a house. The hide-and-seek game started off. Okay. We split up, scampered off in all directions to find the best hiding spots. But as the dusk fell and the evening wore on, things started feeling wrong. Around an hour into the game, we realized Joey was missing. He wasn't in any of the hiding spots we checked. We yelled for him, but there was only silence. Then, while we searched, that's when weird stuff started to happen. Frankie, he swears he saw shadows moving, and not just the usual stuff I know, but shadows where there shouldn't have been anything to cast them. And Jenny, she heard someone or something whispering her name. We were all rattled, scared out of our minds, but we tried to act like everything was normal. We figured maybe Joey was just trying to scare us. But then, things spiraled out of control. We started hearing footsteps and the eerie sound of laughter echoing through the mansion. Doors were shutting on their own, locking us in creepy rooms. It wasn't just us being silly or scared. Something was really happening. We huddled together, tried to face whatever was happening as a group. We had to stay strong for Joey. He went from room to room, spread out, shouted his name. We searched that whole damn place, even the attic and basement, but no sign of Joey. Hours passed. We couldn't explain it. Where could he have gone? Then we came across this locked room. Took us a good while to break it open. Inside, it was like stepping into another time. Dusty, yes, but everything was set like someone was still living there. Pictures on the walls, family photos of people we didn't recognize, old-fashioned clothes in the wardrobe. It felt icy cold, like death. We could barely breathe. Finally, we had to accept that Joey was gone. We made our way back to the car, frightened, shocked, unable to make sense of what had just happened. We drove to the local police station, reported him missing, but they didn't pay much heed. They figured he was hiding somewhere to scare us. But we knew different. I wish I could give this a happy end. I wish I could say Joey walked into school the next day, grinning like a fool, but no. We never saw him again. There was a big search for him. The cops, volunteers, but nothing. He just vanished. Some days I still wonder about that room and that inexplicable cold feeling. Was it a doorway? Did Joey stumble into something? Or did something pull him in? So folks, that's my story. One moment we were playing a game, and the next, one of us was gone forever. Just like that, for those of you listening, remember, a game can turn into a nightmare real quick. I hope sharing this might make someone, anyone, think twice before stepping into an abandoned mansion. Hey everyone, name's Mark. You won't believe what I went through a few years ago. It all started when a cunning serial killer began challenging the police by leaving behind these creepy clues and riddles. Let me tell you, it was like something out of those detective movies, but scarier. I'm just a regular guy, but somehow I found myself involved in this twisted game. You see, I work as a janitor at the local police station. One day, as I was cleaning up after another long day, I stumbled upon this mysterious envelope left on the chief's desk. Curiosity got the better of me, so I opened it. Inside, there was this chilling letter. It had a riddle, like those you find in those brain teaser books. But this one was different. It hinted at the location of the next murder. That's when I realized I had stumbled upon something dark and dangerous. Naturally, I immediately informed the police. They were skeptical at first, not exactly the trusting type, but I insisted that it was no joke. The chief assigned 2 detectives, Johnson and Ramirez, to investigate the riddle and find the killer. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Weeks went by, and the serial killer struck again and again, leaving behind gruesome crime scenes and more riddles. The police were struggling to keep up, and the whole town was in panic. People were scared to even step outside after dark. The tension in the air was palpable. I couldn't just sit idly by, so I started collecting the riddles left by the killer, hoping to unravel the twisted mind behind them. I spent countless nights poring over those cryptic messages, trying to find patterns and connections. It was like being in a never-ending puzzle, with each piece leading closer to the horrifying truth. The killer enjoyed playing this deadly game, toying with the police and the whole town. And the worst part, he was always one step ahead. But then one night, it all came together. As I was going through the riddles once again, something caught my eye. A repeated phrase. It was like a hidden message, connecting all the clues and pointing to a specific location. I rushed to the police station, my heart pounding in my chest. Johnson and Ramirez were already there, tired and worn out from the chase. I shared my findings with them, and their eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. Together, we deciphered the final riddle, leading us to an abandoned and sinister-looking warehouse on the outskirts of town. We knew this was it, the high-stakes confrontation. We called for backup, briefed the team, and prepared for the showdown. As we cautiously entered the warehouse, the tension was palpable. The silence seemed heavy, as if we were stepping into the lair of pure evil. And then we saw him, the serial killer, standing there, waiting for us. A deadly chase ensued, each step bringing us closer to the ultimate capture. It was like a cat and mouse game, but lives were at stake. We cornered him, trapped him in his own twisted game, and finally, after a long, harrowing struggle, we took him down. The relief that washed over us was indescribable. Our town could finally breathe again, knowing that the nightmare was over. The cunning serial killer was behind bars, and justice had been served. Looking back, it was a harrowing experience, something that still sends shivers down my spine. I never thought I'd be involved in such a high-stakes game, but sometimes fate has a funny way of putting us in the most unexpected situations. So, folks, never underestimate the power of those seemingly harmless riddles. They can lead you to the darkest corners of the human mind and plunge you into a world of terror. But with bravery, perseverance, and a little bit of luck, the monsters can be caught and peace can be restored. So, let me start by saying that this here happened a few years ago, long before I even had the thought of sharing it on YouTube and all. It was just me and my girl, Emma, on this crazy hike through the woods. We thought it was gonna be an adventure. Yeah, no. Little did we know what we were getting ourselves into. Anyway, we were deep in this dense forest, tired and sweaty, when we stumbled across this old rickety cabin. It was like a scene from one of them horror movies. But hey, we didn't believe in ghosts or any of that supernatural stuff. We were just a couple of dumb kids thinking we'd found some hidden gem in the wilderness. Turns out, the only thing we found was a nightmare. Emma, bless her heart, was curious as ever, begging me to take a look inside. Against my better judgment, I obliged, and we cautiously stepped into the cabin. The door creaked ominously as we pushed it open, revealing a room filled with darkness and an overpowering stench that hit us like a brick wall. Lord, it was something I'll never forget. The tension built up slowly, and I can still feel the chill that ran down my spine. We started exploring the place, wandering from one room to another, searching for any clues about who owned this cabin. But man, we didn't find anything that made sense. The whole cabin was a mess, with rusty tools scattering around and old furniture covered in a thick layer of dust. It looked untouched for years. That's when we stumbled upon a trapdoor hidden under a worn-out rug. Now I know what you're thinking, but we didn't hesitate to open that thing up. Curiosity got the best of us. Yeah, see. And that's when our lives took turn for the worst. We stood at the top of that dark, narrow staircase leading down into the unknown. Emma hesitated, looking at me with fear in her eyes. But, like a fool, I grabbed her hand and we descended. The tension building up all the while. God, what were we thinking? As we reached the bottom, the stench grew stronger, almost suffocating. The room was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb, illuminating gruesome sights I'll never be able to erase from my mind. Human remains, bones scattered across the cold, damp floor. It was a sight straight out of a horror movie. I tried to hold it together, tried to keep Emma calm, but panic welled up inside me. We were trapped, staring into the darkness, wondering if the owner of this hideous place would return. And that's when we heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from the depths of the cabin. We didn't waste a moment. We ran, grabbing onto each other for dear life, pushing past the fear that consumed us. We scrambled up those stairs, fear gnawing at our heels, and burst out of the cabin into the blazing sunlight. We didn't look back. We just ran and kept on running. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. That experience changed us. We barely spoke about it, burying it deep within us. But the nightmares, they haunted us every single night. We knew we were lucky to escape that cannibal's lair alive, but it scarred us, damaged us in ways no one could understand. Since then, we've chosen a new path, to expose the evils that hide in plain sight. And that's why I'm here with Ye today, sharing our story with the world. So my friends, be cautious out there. And if you ever stumble upon an old isolated cabin during a hike, my advice, turn right back around and get the hell out there for your own sanity and safety. Remember, evil exists, and it ain't always about ghosts or supernatural stuff. There are monsters, real ones, lurking in the shadows. Stay safe out there, my friends. Hi everyone, just an everyday guy here, not great with words, but I've got a wild story to share. Something that happened to me last spring. Now, I don't usually blabber on about myself, but this was something else. So, there I was, looking for some peace, some quiet, a bit of solitude away from the city noise. Found this place on Airbnb, right? An old estate, stood alone in the middle of nowhere. Picture charming, but eerie, you get the picture. Seemed perfect for my little getaway. Figured I'd take some photographs, do some writing. Just needed a break, you know. The host, this uncanny fella, met me at the gate. He looked normal as normal can be, but his eyes were a bit off. They had this glint, like he knew something I didn't. Gave me the tour, small talked about the weather and whatnot. Place was older than a fossil, and it had the scary movie mansion's beat. Anyway, I brushed it off, told myself I was being paranoid. Big mistake. So, the first night came around, and things got weird. Banging sounds woke me up. Thought it was the winds, but then I heard shuffling in the halls. I tiptoed to check, for intruders and whatnot. Nothing. Empty. Decided I was dreaming it up. I went back to bed. Next day, the host popped in, brought me breakfast. Nice gesture, but there was something off about his smile. Asked me how I slept, sounded more like an interrogation than polite conversation. Felt like he knew about the weird stuff from last night. But what could I say? Decided to play it cool. Just shrugged and said it was fine. Days went by, and it all started adding up. I'd find stuff moved around in my room. Once, my camera was turned upside down. Another time, I found my notepad open with stuff written in it. Stuff I didn't write. Freaky, eh? The best part, the host always had a convenient explanation. Wind knocked over the camera, he said. One evening, the power cut off. He said it was regular in these parts. Gave me a candle and went back, but peeked from outside the window. Saw him near the power box, grinning. That did it for me. He was gas, lighting me. Had enough of his shenanigans, but needed proof. Remembered this spy movie I'd watched. Set up my camera to record the room while I was out for a walk. When I got back and checked the tape, there he was, rummaging through my stuff. Even found myself a little confession as he talked to himself about his game. Took the proof, made for the front door, but he was there. With the same uncanny smile, my heart beat so fast felt like it'd jump out of my chest. I blurted something about forgetting stuff in the room. Went back, but this time out the window. Fair to say, fastest I ever ran. Got to the town, showed the local sheriff my tape. He couldn't believe it. They got the guy, turns out, was some psycho had past instances of messing with guests' heads. You believe that? Turns out, he liked scaring them, watching them question their sanity. Got some kicks from it. Anyway, that's my story, folks. Scary, ain't it? Taught me to be more careful. Weird noises, even a feeling. If you aren't comfortable, don't shrug it off, I say. Sure, not everyone's gonna meet a psycho host, but still, safety first, eh? One thing's for sure, my next vacation. It ain't anywhere near a quiet, isolated estate. I can bet on that. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another spine-chilling episode of my YouTube channel, where I narrate real-life scary stories. Today, I have a bone-chilling tale to share with you, based on the experiences of a security guard who contacted me anonymously. So, let's dive into the darkness and uncover the horrors that took place at the infamous St. Augustine Asylum. It was a cold, moonless night as I nervously stepped into the desolate and decrepit main entrance of the asylum. The atmosphere was heavy with an eerie silence that seemed to seep into my very bones. I wasn't superstitious, but there was an undeniable aura of darkness surrounding the asylum. My shift began like any other, with instructions to make regular rounds and ensure the building remained secure. Armed only with a flashlight and an unsettling feeling deep in my gut, I reluctantly ventured into the labyrinthine hallways. The creaking floors and the peeling wallpaper seemed to whisper secrets that should have remained buried. As the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being constantly watched. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, disappearing whenever I turned to look directly at them. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end as faint whispers echoed through the hallways, accompanied by the sound of shuffling footsteps from the empty rooms. In my hesitance, I found myself drawn to the records room, eager to unravel the asylum's mysterious past. Dust-coated shelves revealed secret after secret, documenting the barbaric experiments conducted on the unfortunate souls held captive here. The flickering light bulb above swung back and forth, casting eerie shadows on the pages as I read. One name in particular caught my attention: Dr. Jonathan Masterson, the former director of the asylum. He was rumored to be a mad scientist, bent on unlocking the secrets of the human mind. Patient testimonies revealed the atrocities committed, detailing the inhumane treatments and sinister surgeries carried out under the guise of medical research. The more I dug through the journals and files, the more malevolence seemed to grip the atmosphere around me. Hesitatingly, I ventured deeper into the darkest depths of the asylum, drawn to room 213. Its door groaned as it creaked open, revealing a space shrouded in darkness. Within that inky void, I glimpsed a faint light flickering, casting grotesque shadows on the peeling walls. I stepped towards it, my hands trembling, compelled by an unknown force. As I approached, the light grew brighter, illuminating an unholy sight. A grotesque figure, neither human nor ghostly, its form twisted and writhing. Time seemed to stand still as I stared into its malevolent eyes, the embodiment of all the pain and suffering endured within these walls. A putrid stench filled the air as the entity approached, its whispers clawing at the fringes of my sanity. Before I knew it, I was consumed by a profound darkness, my consciousness slipping away. When I regained my senses, I found myself lying on the cold floor of an empty room. The journal clutched desperately in my hand. My mind was muddled, the memories of what transpired shrouded in a haze. Desperate for answers, I pored over the cryptic messages scrawled within the journal's pages. Fragments of my own handwriting, filled with incoherent ramblings, hinted at the torments I endured at the hands of the malevolent entity. My soul had become intertwined with the darkness that had plagued the asylum for decades. To this day, I still can't recall what truly happened during that fateful encounter. All I know is that something unspeakably evil lurks within the walls of the St. Augustine Asylum. Its hunger for souls is insatiable, and it will never rest until it claims the next victim. So, my dear viewers, be cautious when exploring the unknown, for there are forces beyond our comprehension that can consume even the bravest among us. And remember, the next time you find yourself in the presence of an abandoned asylum, think twice before stepping into the shadows. Stay tuned for more bone-chilling tales, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my channel to keep these terrifying stories alive. Until next time, stay safe and beware the darkness that lurks in the forgotten corners of our world. Alright, buckle up, because this is not your everyday scary story. Now, I ain't no fancy writer or nothing, but I'll do my best to relay this tale just how it was told to me. So here goes. A few years back, I found myself driving alone on a stormy night. Rain beating against the windshield, thunder rumbling in the distance, and the darkness swallowing the road ahead. It was the kind of night that made you yearn for some company, even if it meant picking up a hitchhiker. Little did I know that decision would lead me down a path of terror like no other. As the rain poured relentlessly, I noticed a figure standing by the side of the road, their thumb outstretched, hoping for a ride. Feeling a mix of sympathy and a desire for someone to share the long drive with, I pulled over and offered the stranger a lift. They climbed in, water dripping from their soaked clothes, and I couldn't help but notice their eyes. Those eyes, they carried a darkness within them that sent a shiver down my spine. We exchanged pleasantries at first, but as the miles passed, the hitchhiker's behavior started to shift. They grew increasingly restless, fidgeting in their seat, and occasionally whispering to themselves in a language I couldn't comprehend. Unease settled in my gut like heavy rocks, but I brushed it off as mere nervousness due to the storm. Then it started. Strange and inexplicable events that defied all logic. My car radio began emitting intermittent static, interrupted by distorted voices that spoke in sinister tones. The hitchhiker grinned, their face twisted into a malevolent smile that chilled me to the bone. It was as if the storm unleashed something unholy within them. I tried to remain calm, dismissing each incident as a mere coincidence. However, the hitchhiker's words grew more cryptic and filled with dark riddles that pierced through the storm's roars. They spoke of ancient rituals, otherworldly beings, and a sinister plan that awaited completion. Fear gnawed at my nerves, threatening to consume me entirely. As the storm raged and the night grew darker, I noticed subtle changes in the hitchhiker's appearance. Their skin became pale, almost translucent, and their eyes glowed with an unearthly light. Every so often, their forms seemed to flicker, like a mirage in the desert, revealing glimpses of something otherworldly and monstrous lurking beneath. My mind raced, desperately trying to make sense of the impossible, but the hitchhiker's grip on reality tightened, ensnaring me in their web of terror. I felt watched, hunted, as if unseen eyes followed my every move. Panic clawed at my throat, strangling my voice as I realized I had unwittingly picked up a supernatural creature, a being that belonged to the shadows. With each passing mile, the hitchhiker's malevolence grew. It whispered threats into my ear, promising unspeakable horrors if I dared to escape its clutches. Every attempt to abandon the vehicle proved futile, as the road stretched endlessly before me, leading me into a realm of darkness and despair. But deep within my core, a flicker of determination ignited. I could not succumb to this evil entity. I mustered every ounce of courage, refusing to become another victim. Ignoring the hitchhiker's taunts, I frantically searched my mind for a means of escape, a way to sever this connection to the supernatural and reclaim my life. As storm and fear collided, knowledge sparked within me. I recalled the words of an old folklore, a whispered tale about a sacred relic, capable of warding off malevolence, with desperation guiding my every move. I managed to unearth a small amulet that had belonged to my late grandfather. Its ancient symbols glimmered with a faint, protective aura. Summoning the remnants of faith within me, I clutched the amulet, chanting words of an ancient incantation I had once stumbled upon in an old book. Its power surged through me, giving me the strength to command the hitchhiker away. Its ravenous hunger sated. The supernatural being let out an otherworldly screech, fading away into the storm. I was left alone on that desolate road, rain pouring down on my trembling form. Tears mingled with raindrops, an overwhelming mixture of relief and horror. I had cheated death, narrowly escaping a sinister fate that still haunts my dreams to this day. The memory of that night lingers, a reminder that the realm of the supernatural lurks just beyond our limited understanding, waiting for an opportunity to ensnare unwary souls. And that, my friends, is my tale of terror. Believe it or not, it happened just as I've described. So next time you find yourself alone on a stormy night, perhaps think twice before granting a ride to a hitchhiker. You never know what darkness may hide within those unsuspecting faces. Stay safe out there, and may you never cross paths with the supernatural.
Hey! Guys, listen up. I've got a story for you that still gives me chills whenever it crosses my mind. I'm not very good with words, so bear with me. This happened a few years ago, back when I was working as a lab technician. Our team, a group of scientists, was given a top-secret project that required us to work the night shift in a hidden underground laboratory. Little did we know, our relentless pursuit of groundbreaking discoveries would lead us down a dark and perilous path. Picture this, a dimly lit lab tucked away deep underground. Gloomy walls, flickering fluorescent lights, and an eerie silence that engulfed us every night. Our project, classified and mysterious, had us on edge from the very beginning. We were dealing with something we barely understood, a dangerous experiment entwined with secrets we were never meant to uncover. We were just a bunch of ordinary people, researchers and lab technicians, caught in the whirlwind of something bigger than ourselves. Long nights of experimentation turned into sleepless nights filled with apprehension. Our scientific curiosity began to wane as paranoia set in. Whispers, hushed conversations, and sidelong glances became the norm. We could sense something was off, that the thin line between breakthrough and disaster was about to shatter. It started slowly, subtle and hardly noticeable. Small discrepancies in our recordings, strange fluctuations on the instruments and unexplained power surges. But as time passed, the anomalies grew bolder and more troubling. We couldn't ignore the signs anymore. Fear seeped into our souls, tightening its grip with each passing night. Then, one fateful evening, it all went awry. We had been pushing the boundaries, crossing ethical lines, but blind ambition ruled our every step. I remember it with crystal clarity. The moment we activated the final phase of our experiment, our world was thrown into chaos. The very thing we had been working on, that unknown horror we had inadvertently unleashed upon ourselves, rose from the depths of the laboratory. At first, it was just a distant noise, an unknown sound echoing through the corridors. Our hearts pounded in our chests as we rushed to investigate. But as we descended deeper, fear gnawed at our senses, urging us to turn back. It was too late. We had crossed the point of no return, and pure horror awaited us. The laboratory had transformed into a nightmarish battleground. Unearthly creatures stalked the hallways, emerging from the shadows and distorting our perception of reality. Blood-curdling shrieks pierced the air, filling our lungs with dread. Panic ensued, our normally rational minds falling into primal survival instinct. We were mere pawns caught in the malevolent grasp of a monster of our own creation. We fought, tooth and nail, against the abominations that lurked in each corner. Our desperation fueled our strength, but there was little hope for survival. Some of us were taken, consumed by the darkness that now thrived in the laboratory's hidden recesses. Others succumbed to their own madness, unable to comprehend the horrors that unfolded before their eyes. As the survivors dwindled in number, we knew we had to find a way to stop this cataclysmic experiment. We scoured the lab for answers. Desperate to reverse the irreversible, our minds raced, drawing on every ounce of knowledge we possessed. It was a race against time, knowing that each passing second brought us closer to extinction. In our darkest hour, we stumbled upon a shard of hope amidst the chaos. A hidden switch, a fail-safe mechanism the architects of this madness had left behind. With trembling hands, we activated it, praying it would bring an end to the nightmarish nightmare we found ourselves trapped in. Silence fell upon the laboratory as the experiment began to falter. The abominations melted away into nothingness, leaving behind only the lingering stench of dread and despair. We had succeeded in containing the catastrophe, but at a tremendous cost. Our colleagues, our friends, forever lost to the depths of that underground hell. Leaving the shadows behind, our surviving scientists emerged, battered and broken. The laboratory, now a ghostly shell of its former self, stood as a chilling reminder of the horrors that unfolded within its hidden corridors. We carried the burden of our actions, haunted by the knowledge of the havoc we had wrought. That night, we made a pact to keep our mouths shut, to bury the truth deep within our hearts. The world would never know the magnitude of the horrors that transpired beneath their feet. But the memories, those nightmares that still haunt our every waking moment, serve as a silent reminder of the price we paid for our insatiable curiosity. So, my friends, take this tale as a warning against unbridled ambition and the dangers that lurk within the shadows. The shadows that can twist the fabric of reality and unleash unimaginable terrors upon unsuspecting souls. And remember, as you lay your head down at night, that beneath your feet, hidden from sight, the remnants of that catastrophic experiment lie in wait, ready to claim their next victims.
Hey there, folks. My name's Tony, and I gotta tell you about the scariest thing that ever happened to me and my buddies. It all started when we decided to go camping in this one specific dark forest. The thing is, every time we camped there, we all had these crazily terrifying nightmares. And let me tell you, it only got worse as we learned about an old tragedy that happened there. Now, I ain't the best with words, so bear with me. The first time we went camping in that forest, everything seemed fine. Me and my friends, Jake, Lisa, and Mike, we were all excited to spend a weekend away from the city and reconnect with nature. Nights were always a little creepy, you know, with all those weird sounds and rustling in the trees. But we weren't bothered by it too much. But then the nightmares started. Oh boy, those nightmares. Every single night, we'd wake up sweating and crying. I ain't never experienced anything like that before. The dreams were vivid, like reality was playing tricks on us. We'd see shadows moving, hear screams, and feel an overwhelming sense of dread. It was like living in a horror movie every night. Naturally, we started asking around, trying to figure out what was going on. The locals, they told us about this old tragedy that happened in the forest a long time ago. They said some people got lost and died out there, and their spirits were restless. Now, like I said earlier, I ain't good with words, but let me tell you, that explanation didn't sit right with me. We couldn't just sit there and endure those nightmares, so we decided to investigate further. During the day, we explored every nook and cranny of that dark forest, searching for anything that could explain our torment. And let me tell you, things got weirder. We stumbled upon this old, worn-out journal from the 1800s. The pages were yellowed and fragile, but we managed to read about a tragic accident that occurred there. Apparently, a group of settlers tried to find a way through the forest, but they got lost. They wandered for days, their desperation growing, until eventually they all perished. The journal described their suffering in heartbreaking detail. As we read those pages, our nightmares intensified. It was like the spirits of those settlers were trying to communicate with us. Every night, we'd see flashes of their faces, hear their anguished cries, and feel their sorrow. It was enough to drive a man insane, I tell ya. But we couldn't give up. We had to put an end to this madness. So, we hatched a plan to honor the memory of those settlers, hoping it would bring them peace. We gathered some flowers, candles, and other offerings, and set out to the spot where their bodies were supposedly found. The tension was unbearable. We could feel the forest spirits gathering around us, their presence palpable. It felt like eyes were watching us from every direction. As we placed the offerings and shared a moment of silence, a strange calm fell over the area. Just like that, the nightmares stopped. Our sleep became peaceful, and the forest seemed different, less menacing. It was like we had finally put those lost souls to rest. To this day, I don't fully understand what happened in that dark forest. Some might call it coincidence or imagination, but for me and my friends, those nightmares and their connection to that old tragedy will forever be etched in our memories. That forest taught us the power of collective belief and the impact of honoring the past. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation like ours, remember, sometimes the answer lies in facing those fears head on, embracing the unexplained, and finding a way to heal the wounds of the past. And never, I mean never, go camping in that dark forest unless you're ready to face the nightmares that await you.